No matter how tough the challenge, how high the obstacles, we always overcome.
What Nigerians need now is not about the dumb thing. Who can come and salvage us from where we are?
Good morning and welcome to Open Conversation on Atlantic Television Network. Open Conversation is the network's flagship political platform through which trending political news, events and stories are discussed with stakeholders. Through these conversations, ATN uses political talks about specific issues, party system and actor to explore hope and engender positive impacts to the society. Today on Open Conversation, we look at the stories. First, Rivers crisis. Wike slams Fubara says the same backing dog made you governor. And still on Rivers State, shouting mandate slogans would secure tickets. Wike tells Rivers politicians, and Wike hails cross-party unity for Tinubu. Still on politics, the vice chairman of APC says that joining APC doesn't shield politicians from EFCC investigations. And on 2027, Obedient Movement rules out vice presidential rule for Obi. Wakwanso sets conditions for defection. We are open for sponsorship of the program, advert placements, news, events, coverage, and commercials. Watch us live on our website, www.atlanticnetwork.tv, on Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. You can also watch us on Avo TV, Niger TV, and Efastech TV platform. You can connect with us on our ATN socials by subscribing, like, and share. Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network. And Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. And on X, Atlantic TV Net. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll get right into the show. Do not go away.
Representing
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Joining me on Open Conversation this morning is Dr. Henry Bassey. Dr. Henry Bassey is an educationist, a writer, and public affairs analyst. Good morning, Dr. Henry, and welcome.
Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Dr. Henry. It's a pleasure having you today.
I'm happy to be here.
Right. And then on to the story. Political crisis in Rivers State intensified on Saturday as FCT Minister Nyesom Wike fired back at Governor Similaye Fubara, insisting that the same political forces now derided as backing dogs were instrumental to Fubara's emergence as governor. Wike spoke during a thank-you visit to Okrika local government area where he dismissed claims of waning influence and said political mobilization, not sentiment, determines power. The situation worsened as the Ijaw People's Congress in Rivers State announced its withdrawal of support for Fubara and declared alignment with Wike, signaling a major realignment in the state's power dynamics. Wike argued that Rivers politics was entering a new phase of unity, stressing that former divisions were collapsing and that political cooperation now transcended party lines. Responding to personal attacks, Wike defended his academic and political record, describing critics as serial electoral losers hiding behind insults. He also rejected allegations of orchestrating legal troubles against opponents, noting that some cases predated his current position and insisted that accountability should not be politicized. Dr. Henry Bassey, what do you make of The fragile peace we are enjoying in River State apparently has shattered. And what do you make of these statements and all that has happened so far?
I'm seeing it as a normal political tantrum,
Okay.
and pouring on each other. Yeah. It happened since last year during that festive period that not just the weaker, but in the camp of Fubra, you also heard the same thing too. But there's one thing I want to really talk about, which is very, very salient when it comes to politics in Nigeria. Are we operating democracy or aristocracy? I don't just understand, because as it stands now, I don't think INEC has declared campaign open for political parties or those who have one interest in politics or the other. But looking at what is going on, it is completely clear that political campaigns have just kick-started.
It started since last year.
Okay. Now, INEC is saddled with the responsibility.
Unofficially, by the way.
Unofficially.
Yes.
INEC is the institution saddled with the responsibility of announcing when campaign is to kickstart. But what I'm seeing in Rivers State is a clear indication that campaign has started already. But I want to call on INEC because they are the umpire. I said that before, saddled with the responsibility and making sure that whoever that goes against the law must be called to order. I'm not talking about prosecuting here, because they will also come up to tell you that we don't have that, that power to prosecute anybody who has offended, whatever. But since they don't have power to do that, it is now time for INEC to show that they are constitutionally bound to correct any political individual who has gone beyond the limit. Because what is happening now, someone somewhere will also cite this example. This is what happened in so and so time in so and so state that INEC did not. That is one. Two, the president, who is the commander-in-chief of Federal Republic of Nigeria, has a responsibility to caution any of his cabinet member who has gone astray, because whether we like it or not, people are watching. Nigerians are watching. Because let it not be that he's leveraging on, the president's power to do what he's doing. He should be called to order. Having said that, whatever political tantrums and some wicked thrown on Fubra and that Fubra thrown on him, for me, it's not in any way, brought food on the table of Nigerians or Rivers citizens. It's just their political tantrums and interest. And I said this when I appeared on one of the radio stations outside the state, Yenagua to be precise, and I said, until the politicians learn to respect the rule of law and adhere to that same rule of law, then development will continue to elude us as a people. Now, why do I say so? Because you cannot set to operate on the principle of democracy and you fail to respect that same principle of democracy. It means that you are practicing a different thing on a different thing, calling it democracy. So if democracy is what we are practicing in this country, it has rules, it has principles, which every Democrat is expected to adhere to it. But what is happening all of these, period, points to the fact that the players, the democratic players, do not respect the rule of law. If they do, what we are saying shouldn't have been in the first place. Because no country that wants to develop from point A to B will be practicing indiscipline. Because indiscipline is one of those things that will take us backward. When others are moving forward, we will still be at a particular place. So I don't just understand. Does it mean that the laws we have in this country is no longer effective? Or the security agencies who is saddled with the responsibility of arresting some of these people who disobey the law? Because
so when you say indiscipline, disobedience of the law, can you be clear on what it is? Because you're making a blanket statement and I am unable to decipher who in this instance is breaking the law or who in this instance is displaying indiscipline?
I was expecting that question. So now let me address that. You see, democracy respects the rule of law, and we want everybody within that confinement of democracy to also do so. Now, I talked about campaign, that it is the INEC who's the law saddled with that responsibility to announce when campaign should kick off. And not any individual will stay somewhere and start doing things that is considered as campaign. And so if...
you mentioned when you were making that statement that the president should call the FCT minister to
Yes.
order on that, in that regard, sorry. Now, the question or the thing is, the president himself, one would say to a large extent, is guilty of the same thing. Last time I checked, there were buses that were bought with the name and the picture of the president, you know, all over it and sent out. What was that exactly? I recall again that, was it in Benue State, that about 3,000 motorcycles were given out in a state where motorcycles were banned. In Borno State, 3,000 motorcycles were given out. In the name of who exactly? What's that about? Are those things not campaign? Are they not in line with campaign? So who is going to call who to order in this instance?
I love that. You see, illegality gave birth to illegality. And so if the president on one hand is practicing illegality, and those that work with him will also want to key in on that and practice the same thing. But if the presidency and any other persons that is working in the presidency respects the rule of law, what we are seeing playing out in our society will be curtailed to barest minimum. It is because we live in a society where nobody respects the rule of law. And when you see your boss, so to say, practice something that is closer to that, and you said that if my boss practices such, so which means I can also leverage on that and do same. But do we continue continue to do the same thing and expect different results? So when we talked about democracy, what does democracy entail? Does democracy allow every citizen to behave the way they want? Does democracy allow illegality to prevail at every given time? Does democracy allow everybody to do things that is unacceptable democratically? This is the questions we should be asking. Because what is happening now, don't be surprised. Somebody will leverage on it tomorrow and also quote from what is going on since last year and proceeds to this new year. And so whether the president is, what we are saying is this: there should be, a beginning point of everything. And so if the president is doing it, what you are saying is true, because I watched that on TV the other day, when these buses were distributed to all the 36 states of the Federation and their coordinators and things like that. Nigeria is battling with insecurity and economic, should I say, disarray. And so all the presidency is busy doing is to ensure that the president returns 2027. That is not what a serious country or nation should be doing. So back to the question you asked. Like I did say, if the presidency also indulge in the same thing, and cabinet members also indulge on the same thing, it behoves on INEC, who is on par here.
The governor is also indulging in something.
Yes,
well.
the governor is also,
because he has been making calls and telling people, support Tinubu. It is not the people that are supporting in secret. Like, he has been, having his own visitations and also making his own calls.
Yes, I agree. I'm committed to that.
So campaign, one would say, to a large extent, from all quarters in Rivers State.
Yes.
It has been going on for a while.
Yes, it's wrong. Whether from the governor and the former governor, it's totally and completely wrong.
All right.
For any of them to go into campaign when INEC has not even announced when the campaign should start. So, on that aspect, we have a problem at hand. What is the plan, let's start from the local government, from the local government to the state and to the federal government. What is the plan of the local government? What is the plan of the state government? What is the plan of the federal government on how to make sure that Nigeria is developed? We are not going to dish politics and put on every citizen's table and eat as food. No. When Nigeria's economy improves and increase, then Nigerians can go into any business of their choice and do it with ease. But when we have an economy that is, somehow quashy, somehow defective, somehow not standing with two legs but one, and we are busy pursuing politics, campaign, and the rest of it, how then do we grow? Now, back on River State. River State, considering where River State were in time past and considering where we are right now, it attests to the fact that government is not proactive enough. Yes, let's tell ourselves the truth. It's not politics that people will say, okay, this is what you were able to do when you were in power. That you were able to do 1, 2, 3 or ABC. That we have bad roads everywhere. We have economy that is nothing to write home about. We have our educational sector that is almost crumbled. We have other sectors. What about the agricultural sector? All these sectors is being abandoned. Everybody is busy on one political train or the other. Is it what would be, recording for you as one who is at the helm of affairs? Because whether the governor likes it or not, he is the one at the helm of affairs. If by 2027 is unable to return as a governor, you understand, people will say that when you were in power, this is what happened during your administration, and they will count it for him. So he should know that and try to re-strategize and try to look at his plan and look at it and say, okay, this area we've not done better, this area we've not done well, so we need to improve from so and so area. That is how a proactive government does. But in all of this, who suffered is the Rivers people. So when he thinks about politics, let him also think about development, because without the development, these policies cannot be played successfully. Though they will know that, in fact, it's only in Nigeria that you see, if you don't produce anything, then you are expected that something will come at the end of the month, because that is what is happening in Nigeria. Some of the states, when I went through most of the things that the state produced that contributed to the national purse, do you know that some states do not produce, some of them produce less than 2 billion naira in a month. But when they shared money that is in the national treasury, most of them take more than that in a month. So that's the situation we find ourselves. So they've all gone back to the cocoons and relaxed, because they know that at the end of the month, what happened? They will share from the national cake and go on and spend it the way they like without accounting to the people. So if each state has to go into production, produce whatever you produce from your territory, that is what you pay tax to the national treasury. All these things will stop. It is because we have free money that is coming from the federation account. It's shared every month and nobody cares. And so that is why you see all of this. But if they are conscious of what they are doing, things like this wouldn't be in the first place.
All right, very well. Moving forward, Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, on Saturday, warned political actors in River State against abusing state resources for electoral advantage, stressing that such actions would not guarantee party tickets ahead of the 2027 elections. Speaking during a thank-you visit to Opereka local government area, Wike cautioned against using public funds to hire voters from other regions of the country. In a veiled message to Governor Similaye Fubara and his allies, Wike said chanting popular political slogans, including support for President Bola Tinubu, would not translate into automatic nominations. He reminded politicians that similar strategies failed during the 2023 elections, insisting that electoral success depends on credibility, organization, and character, not slogans or inducements. Wike called for unity beyond party lines, describing the emerging political alignment as a renewed hope family. He praised President Bola Tinubu for honoring political agreements and urged voters to support leaders with integrity, noting that past mistakes would be corrected through wiser political choices.
It's lovable.
What is your take on this?
Very lovable.
Why do you say it's laughable?
Thank you very much. The person that is making mention of integrity, when last a check is a member of the People's Democratic Party. And so, talking about supporting the president, do we allow the anti-party in this part of the world?
How is being a member of PDP a blight on his integrity?
The integrity is doing something in your closet when nobody sees you and you maintained doing what is right. The person that is talking, does he have integrity?
So what are the indices that you consider
is that he's talking about
that?
people spending state resources, hiring political mercenaries to come and support whatever.
He said spending state resources for inducement.
The person that is talking, didn't you do when he was a governor?
All right, can you give instances?
Thank you very much. He gave money to Sokoto State government. He built a law school in Bayelsa State. He did that to Benue State. So what are we talking about? Does that reflect integrity? See, sometimes when we listen to Nigerian politicians, they sometimes did it purposefully to divert the attention of Nigerians to their political shenanigans, which for me does not in any way project the interest of Nigerians. How could you say something that when you were in power you did this?
Now, does that
I'm not even justifying the fact that the person that is doing it has the right to do so.
Because I was coming there. Now, does that justify spending from the state resources without approval?
Thank you very much.
The fact that, like you said, the FCT minister did it when he was governor, should that be, should we normalize abnormally? And if the House of Assembly in his own time decided not to question that, and this House of Assembly is questioning that, does that make this House of Assembly wrong for actually playing the oversight function that they have, that they are constitutionally mandated to do?
Thank you. They say he who goes to equity must go with clean hands. Because that is what is happening in this country. When you held sway to position of trust, you can do whatever you like. But the moment you are out of that position, you started seeing things that should be done in a right way. It ought not to be so. It's trying to reflect illegality that some politicians, allow when they held sway power. But then that does not justify the fact that what previous administration did should be the yardstick the current administration should be doing. No. And because we happened to see abnormality here in the state. In the 8 years of the previous administration, you can never go to the website of Rivers State Ministry of Budget and see Rivers State budget. And the same thing continued in this administration. When this administration started, they said it's going to be transparency. And as a social critic, I have been monitoring to see Rivers State budget from 2023 till then. I've not seen it. So, which means it's a recalling decimal.
But when you say to see Rivers State budget, one would say, how are you going to see a budget that never existed in the first instance? Yes, because I need to remind you of that. In 2024, Rivers State didn't have a budget. I hope you know that. The budget was an issue of contention. And the Supreme Court ruled that we didn't have a budget. Right? Now, in 2025, we still didn't have a budget until emergency rule, when Abbas presented budget to the National Assembly. So one would say, to a large extent, the only budget we can lay claim to was the budget of 2023 and the 6 months budget of 2025. So what budget are you expecting to see exactly? No. Maybe you should be talking about the 2023 budget and the 6 months budget of Abbas.
Now, when you talked about budget is a public document. Once it passed through that legislative processes, which once it is passed by the legislation and sent to the executive for executive assent. Once that is done, it becomes an act which is no longer the executive or legislative or the judiciary
public
document.
act.
It becomes a public document.
It's a law.
Thank you very much. Now, from 2015 till date, Rivers State budget has not been in the public domain.
All right.
And nobody talks about it. Now, back to the dispensation of Simidulaya Febara. Now, 2023, we have a budget that you understand, but it wasn't in the public domain. Then 2024, we have this political lacuna that brought about the seizure of budget or whatever.
We didn't have budget, no matter how you place it.
Now,
Rivers State did not have budget.
Let's assume that
the Supreme Court said we didn't have
fine.
budgets. There was no budget in 2024.
Based on the position of the Supreme Court, we didn't have budget in 2024. Then down to 2025, due to the political, embargo that happened here in the state, when the state of emergency happened, budget was sent to the National Assembly as directed by the Nigerian Constitution, which, the National Assembly passed that budget and sent to the president, who sent that budget to them. And I do not know whether he has sent it to it, but it becomes a public document the moment the National Assembly passes it into law. And yet, it's not found in the public domain. So it means that something is peculiar when it comes to Rivers State expenditure. Now, aside from that, there was a court injunction stopping, anti-graft agency not to probe into the expenditure.
That was by Peter Odile.
Okay. And no successive administration has, think to evacuate that judgment, maybe by going to the...
Why would they evacuate a judgment that protects them?
So
have you thought about that?
No, we have other concerned citizens of Rivers State, not just the government, that can, take up this matter.
You as an individual, you can't.
Understand?
Do you pay your taxes in Rivers State?
I did.
So
So?
why haven't you thought about that?
Now, listen to this. As a concerned citizens of Nigeria, not Rivers State here in particular, there are issues that has to do with the government and the people. Now, when someone went to God and, tried to seek or sought court's injunction to stop the law itself, because when you do not want to be checked of your financial prudence, it means that there is something you preserved, which is not clear for the people. And so for that reason, it is not that an individual cannot do that, but with the rule of law, allow the sanctity that is expected by the same law to prevail. That is on one hand. On the other hand, now, looking at all of this, one should not boast that because I did this, and the same person who boasted on that, look at the wrong of other persons which were shielded from that particular injunction. Meaning that what is on ground now is that it behoves on the entire Rivers people to see this as a cloak, something that is hanging on the neck, that does not allow development to thrive, because without financial prudency and how you spend the money that belongs to the people and be accountable to the people, because as it stands now, none of them can give account of what they receive from the federal government or generated as internal revenue. You understand? And spend it without being accountable to the people because of the so-called court injunction.
But I've asked you, you
So now,
talked about it being vacated. I asked you, but as long as you pay your taxes in this state,
I'm not the only person that pays tax as well too.
No, you are raising it up.
You understand?
It's a matter of concern for you, just like I know every other person. But however, you can still decide to take the bull by the horns. You talked about the Rivers State budget not being in the public domain. Under FOI Act,
correct,
you have rights to that budget. You have right to know what is in the budget, and you can demand for it under the FOI Act.
Freedom of Information Act.
Of course, you can demand for it and assess that budget as well. So have you thought of doing that?
Now, you just referred to
yes, go ahead.
Now, you see, yes, reminding me does not mean that other persons cannot do it as well.
Why can't you do it?
You understand? Well,
because now you're saying that if everybody comes out to critique and not take action on it, then how then are we going to move forward? Yes, go ahead.
In this case, I am not the only person that is being affected.
So why can't you do something about it?
Every other citizen is being affected.
Why are you waiting for every other Rivers citizen?
One who occupied the Rivers State position as a governor went to court and obtained an injunction that the anti-graft agency in Nigeria should not probe, and that is sustained up till today. So whether Dr. Henry is thinking towards that or not, there are other individuals in the state.
That's where I have an issue. It should be vacated. And I said, why can't you? You also talked about the budget. They are because it is our collective package, correct? But you are also saying this budget are now telling me again, you're not the only one. Yeah. That is the entire River State. Yeah. Now, that beats me hollow. Because where I am affected by something I will have.
But, you did it. I am not trying to protect from what he is doing as well.
I think you are actually, because
I am not.
When you
I am not.
Because which is okay, that you are repeating and you're saying whoever goes to equity you this day in one however the River State House of Assembly is saying the 100,000 naira Christmas bonus given to pensioners and given to civil servants and lawmakers as well, they are not approved. And you're not looking at that. You're not looking at that. I feel that when you say whoever comes to equity should come with clean hands, it's also right and fair and just that the same weight of condemnation you've given to the actions of the FCT minister, which, by the way, I'm not making excuses for, should also be, because we are in a current administration. And when we say things are okay, when things are not okay, what happens is that we are saying, go ahead with what you're doing. That's an error has happened over the years in all the administrations, does not mean it should continue. It should be corrected. And one would say to a large extent, when one looks at all the crises going on in Rivers State, you know, between the lawmakers and the governor, one would say probably it's even a good thing that at this point, probably all the governors and assemblies of the states should be at variance, so that everybody will do their proper job. The assembly will now start looking at the actions and the inactions of the executive. Are they doing well or are they not doing well? The executive and the judiciary will also checkmate the assembly as well. Maybe that is when we start enjoying democracy. Because for me, what I'm seeing playing out in Rivers State is actually democracy, where an assembly will look at the executive to the face and call them out on unconstitutionality.
Now let me address one aspect before
Go ahead, please.
Move on, please. You know, coming up on a program like this that is being watched all over the world, there are issues I have to stress for emphasis sake.
All right.
Now, on the aspect of the Rivers State House of Assembly, you know, trying to caution the executive on the spending of the state money. Now, when you look at it, that do they say that the money that is being expended by the governor was not appropriated for? That is one. Two, that the money they receive as an incentive, which I do not know how that comes about, that it was not appropriated for. We shouldn't forget in a hurry that during the emergency period, which the Supreme Court affirms that there was no government in Rivers State. And that leads to what we saw in that 6 months period, which finally the governor was restored back to his position. And before his return, the budget of the state was sent to the National Assembly by the presidency. And that budget was approved, which is not still in the public domain. I said that before. Now, whatever the governor is spending is within the purview of that approval, which is an act for the Rivers State government. That's a part. Then on the area of trying to shield...
One might say you are not correct.
I am.
Because the assembly in this instance, who they are part of the governance in Rivers State, they are saying that money came from the consolidated funds of the state.
Okay.
And they have also said that money came from consolidated funds and it is not approved. Now you are here seated and telling us here on national television that this budget is not in public domain, which means you do not have access to this budget, which means you have not cited the budget. So if you have not cited the budget, how then are you claiming that the governor is spending from the same budget that you have not cited? That is number one. How then are you claiming that these funds came from a budget, from that same budget that you cannot actually convince me here right now with what you have presented before now, that in that budget that was prepared by the federal government, that bonuses for civil servants, 100,000 naira bonuses for civil servants, pensioners, and lawmakers were included in that budget and passed. And please don't tell me that it's under miscellaneous expenses. Because that wouldn't be fair.
You've stated the obvious. Now let's look.
I've not stated the obvious.
I'm
the assembly who also have access to these budgets. Let's make it clear that the Rivers State House of Assembly have access to these budgets. They have a copy of this budget. They are telling us because they are representatives. They are telling us that this money that was spent by the governor was not approved by them. And they're saying that this money was spent from the consolidated funds.
Now, the point is this.
You are saying something entirely different. After you have also said that you have never cited the budget.
I don't want...
Make it make sense to me.
I don't want you to see that I'm trying to make the whole thing look...
No. I am asking questions that I should ask.
Calm down. Now, the point is this. No one would try to convince an average Nigerian that what the governor is spending is not emanated from that same budget. If it is not so, from the beginning, when the governor was restored back to his position and the assembly was also restored back, they would have queried the veracity of the government. How come when it was only on these bonuses of a thing that they raised this, should I say, point of order or what? Now, the point is very clear. They would have even queried the president, not even the governor in this matter, because that budget that was passed by the National Assembly and assented to by the president and sent back to the then what you call sole administrator, that budget was a continue. And so whatever money spent in Rivers State emanated from that same budget. And so the Rivers State, as at that point, the Rivers State Assembly was not on seat. The executive was not on seat too. So this budget was approved by the National Assembly and sent down to the state. So whatever that is spent from there, whether it comes from the miscellaneous or bonuses or whatever, it emanated from there. Now that does not rule out the fact that there shouldn't be checks and balance from both arms of government. The executive, the legislature, that must be there. But you see, when all this political, should I say, shenanigan that comes into play, one is somehow difficult to differentiate politics and governance, or democratic principles and governance, because the whole thing seems to be interwoven. But unless all arms of government, the judiciary, the executive, and the legislature, put their hands together and do the needful, the politicians will always find these loopholes to explore and see reason to say whatever they are saying. Because for me, what is happening right now is to further, cause problem in the public domain. Because some persons will want to toe this part and the other person will want to toe the other part, which is not helping in the development of the state. Now back to the governor. Whatever the governor is doing as a person against the law, whoever that resides here in the state have the right to say, the governor, you have not done the right thing.
All right, very quickly before you continue. Last time I checked, as at August 2025, we have about 37,703 civil servants in Rivers State.
Good.
And we have about, because I will talk about the 27 lawmakers, that's the ones that we know currently, plus 27 lawmakers, and we have about 19,000 pensioners. That gives us an average of 56,730 people whom 100,000 naira of taxpayers' money was sent to. So, we are looking at 5.6 billion.
Okay, so?
No, so, now you're telling me that spending this amount of money, unappropriated.
It's appropriated for?
Appropriated from where, please?
It's appropriated by the National Assembly.
By the National Assembly?
Yes, and put down to the state.
Dr. Bassi,
yes.
If I get you right, a few minutes ago, you said you've not cited the budget. Have you cited
the budget?
No, hold on. Have you cited the budget?
Now, listen. Now, the budget not being in the public domain does not mean that it was not appropriated for.
Have you appropriated for? Yeah, appropriated for or not? Have you cited the budget?
Now,
you have said here that you have not cited the budget. So you do not know the contents of the budget. And then you are saying authoritatively that this 5-point-something billion was appropriated for in the budget, that the Christmas bonuses to the tune of 5-point-something billion was appropriated for by a bus and President Tinubu in the budget. That's what you're telling me. Now, River State House of Assembly, who have access to this budget, are saying that this money was taken from the consolidated accounts. They are two different things. The consolidated account is quite different from that. So they are saying this money is taken from the consolidated account and it was not approved by them. They are unaware of this spending. I am kind of confused how a government or the governor can arbitrarily remove this humongous sum of money, of taxpayers' money. My money, by the way, because I pay tax in River State and I did not get any Christmas bonus. Maybe that is part of my grievance at this point. I don't know. But then moving forward, I'm just saying it as a joke, as an aside. But then we cannot sweep certain things under the carpet. And I think that as citizens of Nigeria, as a resident of River State, as a tax compliant person in River State, I am going to question the government. And everybody should question if the assembly is raising alarm that this is not appropriated for and this expenditure is coming from a source that it should not come from. Rivers people should ask questions.
Okay.
But my confusion with what you're saying here, Dr. Bassi, is that you had laid foundation prior to this time that you have never cited the budget. In fact, the River State budget since 2003 has ever been in public domain till date. And still on this the same show, in the same breath, you are telling me that 5.673 billion was removed from a budget you have never seen before.
Okay. Now,
can you make it make sense to me as we move on to the next topic,
please? The calculation was done by you, not Henry, based on your assumption. That
not on my assumption.
You assume that because
from the information gathered on internet. Now let me read it out to you.
I'm coming.
River State. Hold on. You're saying that my assumption. That's not right because I am a journalist. I don't speak facts on assumption. I need to correct that. So River State has tens of thousands of pensioners with recent verification exercises in 2025, identifying around 19,000 verified state pensioners, down from the original 25,500 plus. And approximately 2,000 local government, interestingly, I didn't even add the 2,000 local government, and approximately 2,000 verified local government pensioners. So for state pensioners, we have 19,000, and for local government pensioners, we have 2,000 of them. So I can still go on. And then, with regards to that of civil servants, it says, as of late August 2025, River State had around 37,703 genuine civil servants, down from over 43,000 before a verification exercise uncovered thousands of ghost workers with ongoing efforts to verify local government staff. So right now, we are even talking about state civil servants, not even the local government civil servants. So the numbers apparently is higher than what I have already stated. So I am not saying what is not true. And this data comes from River State Sole Administrator when he cleaned up the civil service and updated their payroll in August 2025. So please, it's very important that I reiterate here that what I said here is not an assumption. You can do your research and find out their facts. Thank you.
Now, you have said what you know about, but the fact remains that whatever money that the River State government is spending as at last year was appropriated for. Now, what the State Assembly should be doing is to look at the content of what was approved by the National Assembly and then look at the whole thing, whether what the governor's spending is out of what was approved in the budget. But to say that what is spent by the Rivers State government is not or should be approved by them, what is that thing that should be approved by them that is not in the budget that they don't specify in pointing them out for people to know? I'm not saying they shouldn't carry out the oversight function as a state assembly. That is their responsibility as an institution of government. But to say that what the government is spending is not being scrutinized and approved by them, I don't just understand this point here now, because what the government is spending was what the federal government, the presidency took to the National Assembly, which was approved, and they started using all that. Now, whatever that arises, that the State Assembly has to query the executive, why this or why that, that is what they should be doing as a State Assembly or as the executive, as the case may be. But on the issue of the state spending money, I am thinking, and also know that, look, what the state is spending is from that budget, which virtually will elapse at the end of 2025. So whatever they will spend in 2026 has to be appropriated for, as the law demands. So whatever they spend as at 2025, I want to believe that it was in that same budget that was approved by the National Assembly for the Rivers State government. And so whatever that is to be spent in this fiscal year, 2026, has to be appropriated by the State Assembly and approved for the state government or for the executive to spend. Anything outside that, the State Assembly as an institution saddled with the responsibility of checks and balance can ask the state government, now that this year has begun, what are your preparations in presenting your budget for 2026 so that we can see how the River State funds will be spent in 2026? That will be fine. But for 2025 that has elapsed, whatever the state government, the executive spends, was in that budget as approved by the National Assembly.
A budget you've not cited.
A budget is not whether I am
and
cited.
And a budget that the Assembly is coming out to tell us that this money was not spent from the same budget you're claiming, but from consolidated funds.
No, the point I'm saying
you're now saying, no, Assembly, that the oversight function, what they are saying is wrong. The one I'm saying now is correct, because I've not cited the budget, but I know.
I am coming. I am not saying that. Listen to me very well.
I
am not saying that for them to carry out the oversight function is wrong. But my point
You're saying that the information they gave the public is wrong.
No, I'm coming. My point,
yes.
I will continue to emphasize on it.
Yes, go ahead.
Now, what I'm saying in essence is that whether I, as a person, cited that budget or not, that does not mean that River State budget for 2025 was not approved by the National Assembly. That is the point here.
I don't think it's not even a point, it's a point of contention.
You understand? But
it's
so
not a point of
because
contention.
You are saying that the budget that I said I have not cited, then how am I sure that some of this thing that the River State government as a government spent on it, that the State Assembly pointed at, say, look, this money that is being spent from the River State consolidated account has not been appropriated for. Now I ask, does it mean that all the money the governor spent after lifting that state of emergency was not approved by that budget as presented by the President of the National Assembly? Is it what we are saying? So if it is what we are saying, which means that we are also saying that that budget as sent to the National Assembly by the President is faulty. I think that is exactly what it means. Because they are now find these loopholes to say that, look, what the state government spent is not appropriated for. So where does the state government, have money to spend? So in other words, what the National Assembly approved for Rivers State, which was about 1.something trillion for 2025, what they are spending.
Dr. Bassi, are you aware that the River State Consolidated Revenue Fund is entirely different from River State budget?
So where is the money to fund the budget?
No, hold on. Are you aware?
Please, I'm not aware.
Are you aware that they are not the same?
I'm not.
Okay, you're not aware.
So you educate me.
So I am sure that you know and you are aware. Now the Assembly.
Okay, you are sure that I know.
Yes, because apparently you are claiming that the expenditure is coming from a budget. Now, Assembly came out to clearly say it was from the consolidated account, not from the budget. They are not the same thing.
Okay, now
The
question I'm asking is,
hold on. Everything you have been saying has been on the budget, Perhaps you're not listening to what the Assembly is saying. And we need to clarify that. Now, if you're saying it is from the budget, if the Assembly had said the governor spent money from the budget, the question would not be whether they approved it, because there will be no need, in the sense that the budget was already approved. What we will not be looking at will be misappropriation of the funds as placed in that budget.
Good.
We are not talking of misappropriation of funds in River State budgets. We are talking of unapproved spending of funds from the River State Consolidated Revenue Fund as alleged by the House of Assembly.
And
you are here saying that, meanwhile, we have established here that you have not cited the budgets. And the Assembly have cited the budgets. The Assembly also knows what goes in the consolidated funds. They have access to information that you don't have and that I don't have as well. And they have come out to say, as representatives of the people, that this money was not approved and this money was taken from the consolidated funds. And for a very long time here, that's why I find it kind of amusing, actually. You're insisting, like you are insisting it's from the budget, even if it's from the budget, is it not misappropriation of funds if the money in the first instance was not appropriated for Christmas bonus? And now we are not even looking at 500, you know what we call monies like this, we are not looking at 100 million, we are looking at, let me check my calculator again.
I asked
we are looking at over. We are looking at over.
I asked a question. The question I'm asking is this:
we are looking at over 5 billion.
How is the budget funded? Where
you can't be asking me how the budget is funded.
That's the point.
No, that's not the point.
Because
the point is
when you
this:
say that money that is taken from the River State Consolidated account. Now, the question I'm asking: how
a governor
will the budget funded?
A governor. No sitting governor can take money from the consolidated funds without approval. Let us establish that.
I do not know.
The law.
I do not know.
This is a democracy.
That's it. I said.
And the executive does not have tyrannical powers. Everything has oversized function, and there is balance of power, and they call it separation of power for a reason. So now, I am telling you, because it's different. Like I said, if the Assembly had come out to say that the governor spent from the budget, River State budget, we cannot be talking about the House of Assembly approval. What we'll be talking about is misappropriation or non-misappropriation of funds. That will perhaps be the conversation. But the conversation now takes away the River State budget completely. And what we are looking at is the consolidated funds. For crying out loud, usually when consolidated funds are even tampered or touched by the governor, for example, is when, let's say, for example, the budget runs full circle. We are at the end of the year, and the budget is not yet ready for some bureaucracies or for some reasons. The governor can get the approval of the State House of Assembly to use the consolidated funds for a period not more than 6 months. It's even timed. That is how limited the expenditure from that particular funds will be. So when you are seated here telling me that, oh, the assembly that is representing us, the assembly that has access to information, the assembly that has access to financial information of the state, comes out to say that this money, the assembly did not appropriate it, did not approve it, because it's not coming from the budget, it's coming from the consolidated funds. You are saying the assembly is not saying the truth.
That's not
That
what,
that is by implication. You're saying that the truth that you said. Okay, I take that back. You're saying that when you say because hold on,
I didn't say so.
Hold on.
I have to.
Let me take that back. But when you keep reiterating,
people are listening.
When you keep reiterating over and over and over again that the money is not from the consolidated funds, that is from the River State budget. That's why I'm now asking you. Have you cited the budget? You have said you've not cited it. If you have not, how then do you know that it was from the budget?
Please.
And the River State House of Assembly have made this thing clear that this is where this is taken from.
Can I?
So,
because
make it make sense to me.
I am the one that is sitting down here.
I think probably you should go and rewatch this show so you see the things you have said.
Listen. Now, I am the one that is sitting down here in the studio as an analyst, talking. Now, I remembered all that I have said.
Okay.
And I will always make reference to it. Now, I stand to be corrected. If a budget that concerns the state was passed and it becomes an act, whether it is seen by me or any other person in the public domain is not the matter here. Now, the point here is that the assembly alleges that the governor spends from the consolidated funds of the state. And I ask, how is the budget funded? If the River State money is in that consolidated account, and you state here that unless it is approved by the state assembly, that is when the executive will go ahead to spend. Fine and good. But I also understand that money spent by the government must be what is approved in the budget. So whatever mistakes that is being discovered by either by the state assembly or whoever, they can also look at it and say, okay, the fund from the state consolidated account has to be approved before it is expended. Fine and good. There's no dispute about that. But I will still say, how is the budget funded?
All right.
Because if the budget is funded by the state fund, and where is the state fund?
Okay.
The state fund is in
the
consolidated account, right?
Fund.
So how will the budget be funded?
What is the state budget?
The state budget is an appropriated act for how the state fund will be expended.
That is the spending plan.
I'm coming now. For a period of 12 months or 1 year. That is what budget is. And that is the spending plan. And so I ask, this is what the state proposed. That this is how our money is to be spent in so and so time. That is known. But how is the budget spended if not from that consolidated fund?
All right, very well. I think we are already out of time, but just to clarify that for the sake of our viewers, you are correct. This budget is the spending plan. That's the layman's understanding, the spending plan. However, the pool of funds is in the consolidated revenue where we withdraw money to expend what is in the spending plan. Last time I checked, the Christmas bonus of over 5 something billion is not in River State spending plan. Therefore, if it is not in River State spending plan, yet money was taken from the consolidated revenue fund to spend on a particular item that is not in the spending plan, approval is needed for that spending to happen. I think I have broken it down in a way that is very easy for any other person to understand. As long as that particular expenditure is not in the budget, aka the spending plan of the state, the governor must seek approval of the assembly before withdrawing money from the consolidated revenue or fund of the state to spend money that is outside of the spending plan. Because now, this money cannot be proven to be in the spending plan of the state for 2025. Probably, moving into 2026, they can now put that money in the spending plan of River State. And when it's now approved by the assembly, the governor can as well dole out the same amount of money or even higher for Christmas bonuses. And now it will not be coming from the Consolidated Revenue Fund because it is in the spending plan. I hope that is easier for every single one of us to understand at this point. But Dr. Bassey, I wish we have more time. I want to pick your brain more on this. But thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. And
thank you so much, our viewers. It's always a pleasure having you on Open Conversation. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode. I remain Laurentia Ogu. Transition News comes up next. Do not go away.